Welcome to the input parameter fuzzing or input parameter testing for the vulnerabilities or to exploit the vulnerabilities. In a penetration testing phase, you will always find yourself with a lot more work and the testing to be done in a little time. And no one is going to test all the parameters and all the input fields manually one by one. So testing all the input fields and the parameters and simply say fuzzing all the input parameters automatically with automated tools like Burp Suite will always help you and make your task easy. So in this lesson I am going to test input parameters for the vulnerability and to search exploitations. If there is possible, I will simply exploit. From my experience, whenever I go for the penetration testing, I simply take a list of payloads and integrate and load with the Burp Suite intruder and start automated fuzzing. I will perform all these step by step. At first, you need to have a payload list to start fuzzing all the input parameters. I have created my own cross-site scripting payloads and have uploaded it to Git repositories. You can download it simply by the commands git clone, github, XSS, custom payloads. Simply hit the command and it will download the XSS custom payload that I generated for myself, and I always use this payload while going through a testing web applications. So the payload list has been downloaded. Here you can see custom payloads. Now let's start navigating and let's find if there is the website is vulnerable or not. So this is the site that I am looking for the testing input parameters, and if there is any vulnerabilities of cross-site scripting, you can take all the payloads related to all the vulnerabilities like authentication testing, authorization testing, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, CSRF, that is cross-site request forgery, and every vulnerabilities that can be tested. So in this lesson, I am going to test cross-site scripting vulnerability with Burp Suite. This page is for the hostname and IP lookups. What if I want to test this page with the input parameters? As I already know that this field will always accept input from the user. So this parameter must be tested to validate the input passed to the database or to the web applications. So what I will simply do is start the Burp Suite. In the alert panel, you can see there is proxy service started on localhost IP with the port number 8080. Now move to the target and the proxy settings. Burp Suite is basically an intercepting proxy. It will intercept all the traffic that is going through a browser. So at this time, the intercepting proxy is off. Make it on. Go to browser and configure your browser to use proxy and change your proxy settings to use localhost IP and the port number of 8080. For this you can do either by manually or going through a Foxy Proxy standard proxy management tool. This is the add-ons in the Firefox. Now what I will do is simply move to the browser. As you can see, the proxy is running on the browser. So in this case, what I will do is look up DNS so that the intercepting proxy Burp Suite will capture all the traffic that is passing through this browser. After making request from the browser, move to the Burp Suite. Here you can see the Burp Suite intercepting proxy have parsed the data that was passed through the browser. Now for the testing input parameters, forward this request to the intruder, and the intruder tab will be lighten up. Move to the intruder tab. Here you can set the attack target and the positions where you want to set the payload. All these colored options are set for the payload, meaning that everything between these two symbols will be fuzzed for the input validations, or simply say our payload will be attacking at this point and this parameter. I will clear this all. Set our payload to the parameter. In this case, I will set to page. Click add to set the payload. Now everything between these two symbols will be fuzzed by our payloads. Payload will be inserted at this point. This is the attack type, that is a sniper. All these four are used for attacking different parameters. Like if you want to attack one simple parameter, I will use sniper. If you are going to test all the parameters, or if you want to set the payload to the different positions to attack all the parameters at the same time, like the PHP session ID and the input field that I used to search, If I will select another options like battery arm, pitchfork and the cluster bomb, at first it will work by input same payloads at multiple locations. So in this case I am going to fuzz one point and the one parameter, that is page. So I will skip all these and set to a sniper. Now move to payloads. Here you can see and set your all the payloads. Like if you want to run from the list, that will be a simple list. If you want to brute force, then it will also perform the brute force. Here you can define the character set to make permutations and combinations, and the minimum and the maximum length to test. But I am going to fuzz the input parameter with the vulnerability cross-site scripting findings. I will select simple list and provide a list. These all are the payloads. If you want to perform rule-based attack, then you can also add here a rule how this attacking payload will be performing. Like if you want to encode your payloads, then you can also perform encoding. If you want to prefix something, then you can add prefix and suffix. If you want to match or replace, it will also match or replace. But in this case, if I want to encode the parameters, it will URL encode all the key characters. As I have already encoded my payloads, so it doesn't require. I will uncheck this box because of my payload is already encoded. There are a lot more options you can see and set depending upon that what you want and your clients. For testing and fuzzing input parameters, so I will simply start attack and it will start fuzzing all the parameters with my payload set. The burp intruder has started and the status code is 200. The fuzzing the input parameter will depend upon your computer speed and CPU speed and the network speed if you are testing in a network environment. By clicking on any one of the attack results, you can see what it have used to attack. From here you can see the page parameter that was used and the attack payload was inserted is, and what the web page responded. Here we can see the response. It have also revealed the server version. Open it with browser. Show the response. Here you can see it have successfully attacked the input parameters that have founded the cross-site scripting vulnerabilities with the attack payload on the page parameter. So similarly, going through this burp suite and attacking with the burp intruder take a lot more time in a testing phase and at the time of testing, and it also provides a lot more options like fuzzing input parameters, multiple input parameters at the same time with different features with the different attack types. I like it the most while going through the test of input parameters or testing for a specific vulnerabilities like SQL injections and authentication testing. So using this tool, burp suite, and fuzzing all the input parameters in this way can really prove to be a good way in which we can save our lot more time. I recommend you to test input validations and input testing fuzzing with the burp suite to get more hands-on details to work like a professional.